Hi, my name is Sam Led, and welcome to The Fearless Now. This is for you and you in the nosebleed seats if you're looking for an easier way to approach anxiety, stress, and unhealthy habits from the inside out. There's no techniques and no strategies, so sit back, relax, and let me be your peace of mind Uber driver here on The Fearless Now. Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Led, and welcome to The Fearless Now. And I got someone really special, a mover and shaker on today. Look at a swelled head, dude. His head is expanding as we speak. And I'm a transformational coach, but you know what I enjoy more is connecting with people that are real change agents who also see what I'm pointing to. You all see it, ladies and gentlemen, and it's all there. You all have the equipment there to see, but more specifically, people out there that are sharing this in different ways, and especially through sport, because I think sport is the ultimate kind of vehicle that we can really see what the three principles point to, and also, this human experience and this spiritual experience that we all drop into, the woo-woo experience that is even, what our default state is anyways. I have Simon Mundie, and his resume, his CV, his bio, is pages. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you saw him on video right now, his ego is expanding. No, I'm kidding. His
My headphones are dropping off.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get new ones, new Sony headphones. He's the host of Life Lessons from Sport and Beyond, and he's interviewed and shared what would you call it? The seat across the seat with some of the greatest sports legends of our time, of our generation. And he's also a brilliant guy. A wonderful interviewer, and he knows more about sport more than most people.
I'd question that last statement. I appreciate everything you've said. Yeah. I don't.
We're deflating his head right now.
I would say that I know tennis very well. I think I researched well before interviews, but actually, as far as sports reporters go, Sam, I don't know that much.
Well, if you know tennis,
I know tennis.
I'm your biggest fan because I grew up in South Florida, in Connecticut, and I've been in California almost 20 years. I grew up in a town called Boca Raton, and wait, hold on, you're gonna love this.
The Mecca,
Mecca of snowbirds, New York. No, in the 80s, across the street from where I grew up was where the Lipton was, which is now the Miami Open.
Miami, yeah. It was known as the fifth major back then, right? Yeah.
Yes, and my first kind of, I became a tennis groupie, although, I'm a better groupie than I am a tennis player. Watching Mats Wilander and Yannick Noah, 20 feet from me, playing on the side court in 1985 when I was 11.
Nice.
And all the greats, and it's still kind of burned in my psyche. And that's where I would find myself dropping in and kind of getting really quiet. I watch tennis. I could watch you at the US Open. Wimbledon, I just put it on my phone, and subscribe and use the VPN so I can get onto to BBC. So that no one heard that. And just get quiet.
Yeah. Lose yourself.
Lose myself. Yes.
Yes. No, do you know, it's funny you say that actually, because I still watch old videos, tennis videos. Like YouTube is my go-to. Federer is my go-to guy. But even when I was growing up, I would always, my mum would always buy me the Wimbledon highlights video, and I would watch it all year, right? And it's only now I realize that activity was, like you say, it was a meditation for me.
It is a meditation that we all engage in. I think life is a walking meditation. We just don't pay attention to it enough, don't you think? I think because the noise between our ears, the Las Vegas kind of, casino between our ears is so loud.
Yeah.
And I think sport is the greatest litmus for seeing what we are pointing to right here with that quiet and all the great that happens there. And then when we get caught up and we forget that quiet and who we are for a second as this expansive being, this loving,
limitless.
Resilient.
Yeah.
Totally. But I'm getting ahead of myself as I always do.
Well, Sam, let me just say one quick thing. It's funny, as I said to you, I've literally just finished recording my own podcast talking about Roger Federer. Okay, and I think for me, Roger is the ultimate example of when he's in flow. There is no better personification, as far as I'm concerned, than what we're talking about. But when he squanders match points against Novak Djokovic, he's listening to that show in his head. And you can see it in his face, that to me, the contrast is so big. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
And a great metaphor for that. It's like we walk around when we're in our head and our thinking in the machinery, it's like we're wearing the Oculus glasses. And I'm stealing that from another coach. It's like we're in the Matrix. And then when Federer drops in, like, oh my God.
Magic. Bliss. It's beauty.
I have no words.
Transcendence. Yeah.
It's nirvana and then some. And it's funny, like, I don't know, you probably have had friends growing up that have gone on pilgrimages to, like, they go to India, they'll go to find themselves, or they meet a guru. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I don't poo-poo any of that if that's what they need to do and that's what their wisdom was telling them to do. But we find nirvana every day, and every minute, we find that in just the silliest, boringest things. But
it's available at all times, right?
All times, yes.
Yeah. Never Especially goes anywhere. Sports. Never goes anywhere.
Especially as tennis. I mean,
oh man, 100%. Yeah.
The smell of the court and the tennis balls, and I can go on.
Yeah. Sure. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yes. So how did this all get started? And I when I do these podcasts, it's kind of they're organic because I take a couple of notes, but I just like to
shoot the breeze.
Shoot the breeze. Yes.
So how did I get into? Or what led me to this seeing this as you have?
Right. Is that it's a Saturday morning right now in real time? Yes.
So I would say that probably the word I would use would be I don't want to say trauma, but I would certainly say suffering. So I would say that. So I grew up in a fairly volatile family, and it led to some beliefs and thought patterns in my own mind that really became a bit more pronounced in my 20s of dissatisfaction, of feeling insecure, of wanting to feel differently, to put it in short. And so then the search began. And it's interesting. I think, some people perhaps get stuck there and never get out. And for me, I just had this burning desire. I just was like, I'm going to find the answer however I can. So I did the classic, should we say, I read a lot of self-improvement books. I'm in the self-improvement reading book union. I'm a card carrying. The bookshelf is embarrassing. Oh mate, mine's right here. We could fill the hour with just these. But so I did all that. I did some pretty out there stuff actually, Sam, and then in about 2013, I had a realization, particularly around my family.
An insight, would you say?
An insight, yeah, it was an insight. An insight that that my family weren't going to change, right? And my behavior up till that point had been wanting them to change, wanting them to be how I wanted them to be. Reality to conform to what I wanted, right?
That's right.
And I just had this deep realization that they weren't going to, so that I had to then change myself, right? Now, that also wasn't true, but at least it led me forwards. And then various things happened in my life. I won't go into too much detail about what I did, but it was all very interesting. And then I sort of became, I would say I moved on to the spiritual path about around that time, 2013, 2014. And that then led me into a place of understanding eventually that it wasn't about self-improvement. The self can't be improved
because the self is perfect underneath.
The self is perfect underneath.
I got another great metaphor for you. I had to interrupt you because you'll like this one. You ready?
Hit me.
Okay, this is another. Coaches we steal each other's work, but we use it for good.
Of course.
We don't get, there's no residuals for it,
there's no personal work.
There's no personal work. Look at Shakespeare. He was, he was like the worst plagiarist, but one of my favorite coaches, you and I have spoken about it, Michael Neal, he calls all of us, diamonds covered in shit, lacquered in lipstick. Yeah. And you discovered that because you discovered the diamond. It was already, it was shining. It was like, the diamond was saying to you, I'm shining, man. I'm the crazy diamond you've been looking, I've been here the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
And the shit is all the stuff we make up about, ourselves,
beliefs,
and all the insecurities.
Yeah.
And I think that was like for you, man. For some people, it's like, okay. But I'm just going to go back to do my habitual stuff. For you, it was like, 4th of July. Well, in this country, When we won when we declared our independence from y'all, 4th of July. 4th of July on the fireworks. So go on. I'm sorry. I just said
No, you're right. Actually, for me, I think it's been a process rather than an event. Someone like Eckhart Tolle, who
it wasn't a burning bush.
It wasn't one of those kind of overnights. Right. But I think gradual getting comfortable in the understanding of and seeing ever more clearly that like you say, the noise, the feelings, the Las Vegas show covers this perennial, undisturbable, limitless truth that we are, and and sort of settling into that. I'm still settling into it, and I imagine I always will be.
Like all of us, for sure.
Sure.
We all forget. We and I was talking to someone. I did an episode yesterday with a brilliant principals coach, and she was in New Zealand, and we were laughing at our house, the human experience, the human psychology versus, the quiet and who we really are. And it's like, we're kicking our own asses a lot of the time. And then we like drop in, and then we get quiet again, and then we kick our own asses again. But once we realize we can't, as I'm quoting Aaron Turner, who's another one of my favorite coaches, we can't beat the system. Yes. It's like, we're not going to win. We might as well just like laugh at ourselves and show each other goodwill, is hard as it is sometimes when things like bills and, survival and when life's happening.
I think for me, the key thing to understand is that the noise will never go, right? It might quieten down a bit, but I think it's just understanding that you are not that noise. The noise can be there, but you are the background to it, the witnessing presence to it, and therefore, actually, it doesn't really matter what the noise is.
Right.
That's I think the one thing is it's about identification. I think is a big thing, and then to build on that, I think for me, and we've connected on Instagram. It's the first time we've spoken, right?
But I feel like I've known you, dude. Like, and then our
even from just messages on Instagram, right? It's that innate thing, right? And this is what I mean about settling in, is that, and I think this helps whether with my interviews or whatever, is that once, for me, it's been gradually noticing that whoever I meet, or my cats, whatever it is, is recognizing that identity, that being, is the same for all of us. Therefore, why would you treat anyone any differently?
Exactly, and I love that the cats are a great metaphor. I was taking care of my mother's miniature macaw, who had some kind of bacterial infection. I've as you love cats, named after famous divas. We won't name. Don't put you on the spot. He's turning red, everybody, but that's okay because it's.
Hey, we're
cats
proud.
are divas. Cats are divas, but birds are very kind of restless and high strung. They just run a little hotter than most of us other organisms. And he had a bacterial infection, and I don't see the bird a lot because when I'm in California or I'm visiting my family back east, but as soon as I found out that he was not feeling well, I didn't even blink twice. I rushed him to the vet and took him to the vet every day for shots for 2 weeks. So I think that there's connection with, we all have the ability to see the goodwill and the resilience and what our default state is, which is love, but also take care of each other and see each other as that diamond. And it's interesting because when I watched your interview with Federer, you saw him. You didn't see. I mean, yeah, he's a freaking god. I mean, let's he's
a freaking god tennis player.
Exactly, but there's so much more to Federer, and you saw for most, there's a million people that interview sports, professional athletes, but you saw him, really saw him.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen that often. And again, don't get it. You're getting a swell head. It's coming back. He's going to break his headphones. But that's what I felt. What's what I saw from you, because that's what all of us see in ourselves and our fellow humans when we're not in the noise. So
yeah, it's true. I think anytime you form a mental hierarchy, right? That's part of the noise.
Yes.
I think, if you look down and think, okay, this person's below or this person's above, no. Doesn't matter what you achieve or don't achieve, we're all the same.
Underneath the noise. Exactly.
Yeah. The noise, well, you have different noise, but so the different records are playing. But,
yeah. I got a lot of records. I got
Some people have, nice music, relaxing music. Other people have noisy music, but you know what? It's still all music.
And the irony is I used to be a DJ in college. So I literally have records.
I can believe it, Sam. I can believe it.
Oh, yeah. It's a long hair. So, I wanted to ask you, what has sport taught you, specifically tennis, about your own kind of understanding of the psychology of our humanness? What I mean is our frailties, the noise specifically, because as I mentioned earlier, sport is the absolute greatest kind of example of what happens when we go in and out of that noise.
Yeah. So the example that comes to mind is how quickly our minds leap to, oh my gosh, this is a big deal. This is serious, right? This you need to worry about this, right? Okay. Right. And there is no better example of that than there's this guy I've been playing. He's the coach at the club I'm at now. He was the coach at the club when I was 14, 15. He's a couple of years older than me. He's a lefty, right?
He's goofy.
I hate playing lefties. Yeah. It eats my backhand, right? Which is my weaker wing.
That's an anomaly, right?
Oh, I know. I honestly, if he was a righty, I'd fancy my chances. But anyway, he's won, I would say, 95% of our matches. I've got a couple of big wins against him, a couple of loves and twos, But anyway, he's won 95% of our matches. But so now we play. We're clearly past our peak, and so we play early. Let's say on a weekday morning, 8 a.m. normally, around that time, right? And we'll go down to the club and play a set or two, right? Yeah. It means nothing. It means nothing, right? But yet, if it's, let's say, 4-all deuce and I'm serving, it feels like everything, right? So the anxiety of I'm not worried about my work, not worried about bills, nothing like that, right? At that moment, all I'm really worried about, or my mind is really worried about, is, God, I better not put this second serve in the net, right? And it feels so real, and it feels the anxiety's pumping, and it feels like there's big consequence, etc., etc. And then invariably I lose, and I come off court, and 10 minutes later, I'm in the car, and it means nothing, and so. That I think is the perfect example. It's just the fact that how we can so get lost in the drama when the drama means nothing. It doesn't mean anything to me after the match. I mean, he's forgotten it. He's doing his work with the club. Outside of the match, no one's even aware of it. Yet the mind is like, this is a big deal. No, it's not a big deal. It means nothing. And that's relative to most things in life. Let's be honest.
Totally.
We made it this far, right? Safe. And yet, I don't know about you, but my mind's been freaking out for a lot of the time up till this point.
And interesting, my mind was doing backflips in preparation for having this conversation. Although I feel so comfortable now talking to you, but I'm like, mind, like he's my friend, and we connect, and I'm just so excited. But again, my mind's like, make sure that, the volume levels are great and you don't say the wrong things and you don't, be impulsive. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, shut the F up.
But yeah, it's just like observe and allow, man.
Observe and allow. Exactly. You know what's you'll love this story. This is a great example of when we're at that match point and we're like, the mind is going sideways. And it's like, and again, our mind has an operating system that hasn't really had a software update since the Paleolithic era.
I mean, think about it. Right.
So
we have prehistoric minds in a futuristic world.
Yes. Created, scripted, narrated by the greatest screenwriter in the history of screenwriters, which is our brain, and the greatest used car salesman. I had to say that. About 10 years ago, a friend of mine, we were going to play tennis in Santa Barbara, these municipal courts, you pay a fee for it. Hard courts. There's not a lot of clay courts or because it doesn't rain. We had a little problem with rain.
It's why American tennis is suffering, but that's another conversation.
That's part two. I agree, because I love clay courts. And we pull up and we go to the office, we pay, and I'm walking out. I'm looking at this guy. He looks so familiar. He's hitting the ball against the cement wall, the backboard thing.
Yeah.
Like, wait a second. Is that Jimmy Connors? Jimmy Connors, like Wilson T2000.
Straight take back. Take back.
I can actually see him doing that while you're doing that. And he's having the greatest time. He's got a smile from ear. He's hitting a ball like he's 12 against. This guy is one of the greatest tennis players that ever lived. He's by himself, having the greatest old time. Right?
That's it, right? But that's it, right? You said our true nature is love, but equally you need to tap into that if you want to do great things. Like you have to, it has to come from that place of love. Federer says the same, in the quote in this book that I've just read, it's never once have I fallen out of love with.
What's the name of the book?
It's called The Brilliant Career of Roger Federer. It's a magnum opus of his whole career. Covers the lot. So I interviewed the author, a guy called Chris Clary. He writes for the New York Times.
Oh wow.
So, but yeah, he said, he loves it and he's never not loved it, and that's why he's been able to achieve such great things. So
it's just the love. Like I'm not the greatest tennis player, but when I get on that court and I have a fresh can of balls in my hand, and it's the babble out, the grip, and the especially on a clay court, it's like it's like, okay, let's see what happens.
I tell you, when I was younger, I was lucky enough. I lived about a 5-minute walk from my tennis club.
You're very lucky.
It shaped my life, right?
Yeah.
I fell in love with tennis probably when I was 7, I would say. I think I connected with the forehand once and was like, this is it. This is my love, right?
Yeah.
And I'm quite all in. So I went all in, right? But I would get up during holidays and I would walk to the club and I'd be there till 9, 10 at night. Till dark, let's say, till dinner time, right?
Right.
That's what we call it here. And I just absolutely loved it. And like you say, and I think for me now, don't get me wrong, if I'm unfit and I'm playing badly and something's aching, I don't love it quite as much, right? But if I'm playing okay, then hey, it's my happy place.
And the interesting thing about, when we don't buck up against our experience so much of being, this thing called being human, the human experience, which is not our conscious experience. It's the whole enchilada. enchilada, California. Everything is burritos and enchilada. Is that once we see that we make it, that we're okay with having a shitty experience of aches and pains and not doing well on the tennis court, being okay with that, and also being okay with, having the best day ever. Or we have, and also being okay with forgetting. Forgetting when we are reactive on the tennis court, or we have,
totally.
or it's like there's nothing wrong with either one of those things.
No, well, listen, the way I would,
we beat ourselves up over, and then we get angry at ourselves for acting like a doofus or behaving badly. But there's nothing to fix. There's nothing wrong there.
No. Feeding the fire.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so liberating, don't you think? Like when you can, when you realize that, you're going to go crazy now every now and again. Now, not crazy as in, pathology crazy, but crazy as in, your mind's going to go sideways. Your brain's going to glitch. You're going to get angry at your partner sometimes. You're going to get angry at yourself. And be okay with that, because I think we're so scared. I think Federer is a wonderful example, and you, because you're doing as a podcaster and as a broadcaster, and you got to write your book, by the way.
I'm getting it back next week, but yeah, carry on.
Okay, good. Did you write a book?
Yeah. I didn't know. I've got it coming out next year.
See, I knew. Good. Okay, we won't burst over this. So, once we see that, that we're going to have that experience anyways, that who we are is perfect, but we're also dealing with some equipment that's pretty old, and for most of our existence, we've never been taught how to really use the equipment, and I think Federer, figured it out early. I think that's some of the greatest athletes, they kind of figured out how to drop in without figuring it out. They just kind of saw it.
I think it just happens automatically with someone like Roger. And like I said, I think he's had some pretty tough losses when actually he's got in his own way and he's got lost in the movie. Actually, I think someone who has figured it out is Djokovic. But yeah, look, the way
interesting. Why so?
Well, I think Federer is the better player in terms of strokes and talent. I mean, Djokovic is a wall, but I think if you look at, 3 times they've played and Federer's had 2 match points and Djokovic has saved them and won, right? And in each of those 3 matches, on each of those points, Federer has gone inside his head and Djokovic has stayed free. And I think that to me is why Djokovic has been able to do what he's been able to do is just, as I would say, get out of his own way. Whereas actually sometimes it almost becomes too easily to Federer, so that during a tough moment he thinks he has to do it, and he needs to realize it's not him doing it in the first place, But the way I would describe it would be, the moment never changes, the content changes. Okay. Right. And the moment never changes, the content changes. And, if we cling to the good content, quote unquote, the content we like, but reject the content we don't like, then first of all, that leads to suffering, because, when the good content starts to go, we pain. And when the bad content stays, we're in pain. But ultimately, there's that famous spiritual quote, I think Krishnamurti, is it, who said, that my secret is I don't mind what happens. And if you can treat the moment, and I think this is something Federer does well, is all moments are the same. And if you can treat whatever the content, a moment is a moment, and it's a moment of life, and it's now, however you want to describe it. And therefore, the more you can treat it, irrespective of content, the same, the more in line with life you are.
Interesting. So it's kind of like, the good, the bad, and the ugly is really all the same. Because
there is no good or bad. It's only our mind that's labeling it.
Right. Again, we're making it all up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
we're adding the story.
Right. We're like, you remember that 60s? There was a 60s kind of expression. It was like, "Get out of my movie, man." It's like,
it's a great one. I like that.
And it's like, it sums it all up for us. I mean, you can, and I love Terrence McKenna too, but it's you don't need to do anything. You don't need to do anything.
The only thing I'd say to that, and yes. I agree, is it's not a doing, okay, but is not falling for the trap of identifying.
Ooh.
So I would say.
Let's say that again. So
I it's not a doing. So people talk about. I talk about acceptance a lot, right? Acceptance is not a doing. Acceptance is our nature. Okay. So I think for me, the one thing it's a not doing it, because when we identify with our mind or our thinking and think that we are the thinker of the thoughts and
the thinker of the thinking,
and then the identity of the little me comes in, right. I'm thinking these thoughts, even though they're just arising in us / consciousness, then there is a subtle doing there. So I would say it's an undoing. It's just a remembering not to identify. So it's a kind of doing, but in a non-doing way. That's what I would say.
It's kind of like, being an observer to your own concert, and then
that's it. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
but most people, though, right, Sam? But most people live their lives as if they are that concert, but they're doing that.
They are that concert, and then the concert goes around them or distracting them, right? It's part of, and I think that's why most people, they're living their lives with these Oculus glasses on. They're living a virtual reality simulation, and they don't get a chance to see how incredibly wonderful and resilient and quiet who they really are. And I think sport is the great example of the illusion that we sometimes live in.
Hey, well, look, I think that's such a good point, and I think in this country, football, not American football, soccer, right? Soccer. Even though they, logically, it's clearly more football than your football. But there we go. Yeah. But the thing is, I think so. Football. The thing I like about sport is you get lost in the drama. You pick it up, and then for me, you put it back down afterwards. Okay, and then you move on. The thing is, with soccer in this country, it's people are so identified like with their team or whatever that they pick it up and they keep holding it, and that becomes part of who they are as well. I am an Arsenal fan. I am a Manchester City fan. I hate Manchester United or Tottenham or whatever it may be. So I think,
well, it's religion to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it is a religion.
Yeah,
right? It's a belief system. It's a belief system.
That's all made up too.
Of course, it's nonsense, right?
But you love it.
I do. I listen. I love tennis. I love the togetherness of many sports. I'm not a huge of all the sports, soccer. And I will call it that just because your audience is, I'm sure, will resonate. With that.
Do you know what? I've been on as a guest on more podcasts in the UK and Australia than I've been in podcasting. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay.
Because my accent is embarrassed. I mean, you guys speak, the kings. And,
the queens. Come on, respect.
And the queens. That's right.
No, I think I don't like that whole. I'm not a fan of all the nonsense that goes with football, the over-identification, the kind of, I am my team.
Well, that's the same thing with American football. It's the same thing. It's like,
this spills over into violence here, though. That annoys me and just really, really bad behavior. I do love it. But it's weird. Like, as I get older, I would say, I still use sport for the reason you say, which is that it's such a good window into this. It's such I think, an easy way to understand what we're talking about, or a really powerful way to illustrate what we're talking about. But actually, what I'm really interested in is what we're talking about. The sport is just the window the window.
It's a vehicle. It's exactly. The conduit. And I have to ask you one more question about tennis, because then we'll get in. I want to get into sure. John McEnroe. Okay.
J-Mac.
J-Mac. Okay.
I've got some stories about
Queens
him,
boy, New York City boy. My dad's from Queens.
I worked with him at the Beeb. Yeah, go on.
I mean, dude,
Sam,
I'm not worthy.
I'll save some interesting stories for when we stop recording.
Oh my God, I just want to let you know this is like the best day ever. It's the best day ever, anyways. But But John McEnroe, I grew up. I mean, I'm not going to ask your age. I'm probably older than you. You're probably Matt's age, but our friend Matt.
That's about right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm around there too. Sure. No, I have no gray hair though, dude.
Hey, you look great for you, mate. You look
for
great.
My age.
You look fantastic. You look fantastic.
Yeah,
like an international superstar DJ.
Right.
It's don't start getting your face done. Oh man, dude, I hate that. That's sad. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Well, thank you for.
You were saying J-Mac. Let's get back to J-Mac.
Okay, J-Mac.
Leave your face alone.
Yeah. Now you're gonna. I'm gonna have an ADD moment. It'll be your fault. So J-Mac. He's a puzzle to me because he's a guy, and maybe I'm probably looking at the wrong way. I'm intellectualizing his behavior. I mean, one of the most famous, and you know this, you probably watched it 1,000. You know what I'm talking about. When he had his 1984.
Oh, the 81. What, the meltdown?
81.
You cannot be serious against Tim Gullickson.
You cannot be serious. And I'm not going to say any more, but I think you know where I'm going with this. Someone that was a brilliant superstar for this, for a great period, the 70s and early 80s. How did that come about when he seemed very tormented? If I was going to judge him, because that's what a mind that I'm judging him, end up being such a wonderful success when you could obviously, again, judgment, analysis, brain doing it, such a tormented guy on the courts. Or maybe he wasn't as part of the show and he's just being, because he's from New York, which is another judgment.
No, I think often great sporting success is born of disquiet, of trauma, of angst. If you marry that as a fuel with a natural talent or a gift, then that's often a very powerful combination. John as well is a very gifted broadcaster.
Brilliant broadcaster. And his brother was. Is his brother still doing it?
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, not quite as good, but John's good. But he definitely believes. He definitely believes he's there. Put it that way, if you know what I mean. Really? Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think the 80s. In my experience, the 80s stars, of all sports, and I think that probably says something about that decade, because it was the decade of ego in many ways. Money and da 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 da. I think that they to greater or lesser degrees think they're real. Put it that way.
Interesting. But even though that was another decade, it's still the same. Yeah. Although, the sport is essentially the same. Obviously, the technology's changed. We know that. We have computers to let us know when the ball is out, right? And that's changed a little bit. The linemen are there, but they're kind of back up. They're like the redundancy system. But with McEnroe, I was just fascinated the fact that he didn't, self-destruct, because the theatrics on the court as a little kid watching him, not knowing what was, my child brain was like, okay, I guess maybe he's using that as the the fire to get him moving. I don't know, because then you look at someone that is not as expressive, and is so grand and so brilliant, and does just as well or better. Do you think you think it has nothing to do with that? Do you think it was just his shtick, or it was his worst enemy that kind of was one of the reasons why he kind of, didn't get as far as others?
I think it was a mixture. I think it was both a blessing and a curse. I think it was a big part. He's known as the guy who was able to perform his best when raging at his worst. That's very rare. But yes, he had one of the most dominant seasons in tennis history in 1984, and then dropped off the map and never won another major. Got married to Tatum O'Neal, thing. But it was a different time then as well. Remember, Borg retired at 26. Sampras retired at 29. It's only now when you've got someone like Federer who's, he's like, hey, just having another knee surgery. I'll be back when I'm 42. It's like, okay, Rog, whatever you say.
Whatever you say. Hey, listen.
I hope he does. If only for a farewell tour. I don't care. Even if he loses first round, I just want to go out and give him a clap, man.
It's like watching God, man. It's just.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know that you're right there.
Yeah.
In full flow, it is. You know, it's what is it?
It's art. It's artistry.
It is art. It's balletic. But there is that you know, there's the genius at work, or even it's something like there's quite a funny quote that some people hold up, and it's like, you know, something like, if you're going to do something bad, do it while Federer's playing tennis, because even God is watching. You know.
I love that. That's so true. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been doing work with with Federer in the background. You know, tennis in the background. I mean,
I mean,
for me, that's.
Hey, look, it's like I don't know, Mozart, or or Jimi Hendrix, or whatever it may be. You know, it's these guys who are touched by.
Just don't say Oasis.
No. I mean, there's a lot of ego there, but yeah. But the thing is, I think what I respect about Roger is as well, I think he understands that it surprises him. I don't think he personalizes it that much, and I think that maybe that's why he's been able to go so long. I remember speaking to him, and when he had his breakthrough at Wimbledon in 2003, and he just destroyed Roddick and then Philippoussis in the semis and the finals, and he said, you know, I didn't know I could play that good, you know, and I didn't know I had it in my arm. And so there's an element of, wow, I've been gifted this talent, rather than, hey, this is me, you know, and so some people, I think, confuse that with arrogance on his part, because he'll be truthful. He's like, you know, I played amazing. But I think there is a little bit of separation between Roger, the person, and then Roger, what he's able to produce.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, because I think, you know, we kind of, I think we judge and kind of, you know, pigeonhole someone for saying, you know, I played a great match, man. I was just on fire. I think it's all Roger. I think that, you know, if you want to call it, you know, just him. I don't know if but it's
to me his balletic beauty is. I interviewed Rupert Spira about this, so he's one of my favorite non-Jew, and he's like, no, it's the great players, of which Roger is one. They give us access to the greater intelligence in ourselves, and that's why we love them, and we project that greatness onto the person. But it's not the person. The person has feet of clay. It's just they are able, because the vessel is the right shape. The body, the mind. They've done the drills.
What about divine timing, though? Because, you know, when we're going to get spiritual woo-woo, I think that, you know, as we spoke about earlier with Federer, that it wasn't like he was more sealed at dropping in and seeing that very special space, that liminal space we call, whatever you want to call it, calm, you know, flow state, nirvana,
being,
you know, utter, you know, just being so present in that moment.
Yeah.
Selfless. Well, he doesn't.
Empty.
I love it. Keep going. There's so many, but it's that, you know, that space within, as our friend Michael Neal says it. I just think he just saw it longer periods of time than most folks do. I think just for no reason, just happened that way.
I think it just happened.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, in 2003, he's like, wow.
Yeah.
I think he enjoyed the show as much as you or I would have done.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't know that was going to happen, or that could happen.
Right.
It happened.
And we don't know either exactly. I mean, we drop into flow states all the time. We don't even know what's happening.
Exactly. And then a lot of people will then go back and be like, I did that. No. You didn't do that.
No.
It just happened.
It just happened. And I think that's so liberating for, like, when we take the pressure, when we let go of the controls, you know.
Surrender. That's the key. The path of surrender, right?
Yeah, totally.
Well, there's two paths, I think, for me. One path is, right, of what's the word? Self-inquiry, right? Who is the one?
Self-awareness.
Who is the one that is suffering, doing this,
self-introspection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Whatever, go looking for that one, and good luck finding him or her. right? So that's one. Path one. Or path two is just the path of surrender. Get out the driving seat, go sit in the back.
That's right.
Yeah, of course. If the front says, do you want to go left or right?
Right. It's like the Tesla, and you put it on the Tesla on what do you call it, an autopilot, and then tie the string.
That's it.
You ever see that? It. Exactly. And
active passenger, I would call it. Active passenger. Ooh. Forget driver.
I can see a new book coming. I see this is good. This is the springboard for your next book. But it's interesting. Like we don't notice it. Even champions in sport, and then unless it happens so much, happens a lot, and there's some kind of reward at the end of it. We don't need the reward when we look when we're in that
the reward
space.
Just detracts from it,
The reward is the gift is that space. I mean,
yeah. Well, listen, this was one of my favorite quotes again from Rupert. It's like, people think it's about winning a trophy. But the trophy is just a symbol of that moment.
Right. And the fact that we have this God-given gift to experience that space is to me, and I'm sure to you too, kind of, the perfect example that we are so far beyond this, meat suit. We're so far much bigger than this machinery between the supercomputer between our ears. And there's something beyond that. And I just think Roger saw that, and he, expressing the world of the formless and expressing that through language is tough. It really is, and language is the gift. But again, our brain acts like Google Translate sometimes, and it's a total mess. But and then it's beautiful. What I wanted to ask you about the noise and how some athletes, or we can turn, or yourself, and like when the noise is really loud, how you're still able to perform at your highest level. Yeah. With the noise being so loud in the periphery. I
learned a valuable lesson. So I covered the London Olympics in 2012, and I was asked to do some presenting on what's known as Super Saturday, when it's one of the most famous days in British sporting success. 3 athletes won golds in the London Stadium within like an hour, and it just went crazy, right? And they wanted me to do a live report from in front of the big screen, and it was for a program I hadn't been on before, and I had an hour to prepare, and this feeling of anxiety started creeping into my stomach, and I tried my best to shoo it away, to rationalize it away, to do anything to get rid of it, and all that did was pour fuel on the fire until it grew, and I had a big compulsion to run away. Ultimately, I didn't, and adrenaline kicked in, and I was fine. And afterwards, but I just had this sense of relief rather than having enjoyed it. But what I now have realized and embraced is accepting and welcoming those feelings. As soon as you get into resistance or get lost in them, that's when problems happen. But if you can see them, accept them, welcome them, let them take you over, they paradoxically lose their power. So if I now have that same feeling of anxiety before a broadcast, before whatever, or things are going, there's cool. There's the feeling of anxiety. There's there's a thought saying I'm going to mess this up. Hey, welcome, come on in, join the party. And so it's that, it's not resisting whatever is happening either internally or externally. That's for me is that's the only way to I don't want to say deal with it or manage it. It's just a question of being with it willingly, I would say.
That's the secret sauce. I mean,
right. That's it.
And that's why we watch tennis, and that's why we watch, professional sport, because I think that's the folks that run out on the field that we call professionals are running out on the field with really noisy brains, and they've, I wouldn't call master, but what you just described is what I would say Michael Jordan does.
I think
Federer does.
So the person who springs to mind, Sam, is Michael Johnson, the runner, right?
Oh, okay.
200 and 400 meter gold runner. So the fastest guy before Usain Bolt. Okay. And he said what he misses most was that feeling of anxiety before a race. That's what he misses most. And so if you can accept and allow, you can it's like alchemy. You can turn anxiety into excitement, into fuel. You know?
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like because listen, here's an interesting way of looking at it, right? If you imagine two people getting on a roller coaster, all right, and one person's dreading it and one person is super excited, the only difference, physiologically, the feelings are the same. The only difference is the story in their mind.
That's right.
One's got a story of this is going to be hell, another's got a story of this is going to be amazing. Everything else is the same. So for Michael Johnson, and that's what makes, I think, great athletes great, is being able to welcome, relish even, and certainly channel those feelings. Djokovic does that in my opinion better than Federer.
And that's why he's
managed to dominate over the last X years, whereas Federer is 3 times lost from 2 match points up.
And ladies and gentlemen, you just got the secret. There it is. Now everybody go out and play. Go out and win some matches.
In whatever, and it's all play. Never forget
it's all play.
So.
And when we see that it is all play, what did
can I share a story with you, Sam?
Yes, please.
That's non-sport related.
Welcomed.
A little story. So I recently went on a family holiday, and it was challenging, right? And they say, if you think you're enlightened, go on holiday spend a week with your family. Okay, right? So it was lots of us. It was siblings. There was siblings, children, parents, like blah blah blah, right? And for the first time, I saw very clearly that nothing was personal. Right? Nothing. Like what we think of as dynamics between people, our own ways of thinking, all this stuff that was going on, this tension that could arise out. I was like, wow, like none of it, the beliefs we hold, it's just all habits of mind, and none of it is personal. So just to relate that back to sport, it's like, I genuinely don't think Federer's brilliance it's not personal. He did the training. Yeah, he's had the gifts in terms of his parents. Yeah, he had the gifts in terms of the right people at the right time, his wife, the support, etc. But then what he produces in those moments is not personal. Same with Djokovic, same with any of these people. But it
never is. It never is.
Nothing is personal.
Is. And if we do take the bait, the noise that the brain is feeding us, and we do take the bait and we take it personal, that's okay too, because we all forget. And I think that's you just define what makes a great broadcaster, what makes a great author, what makes a great athlete, and the fact that we can embrace our frailties and then, kind of slip up sometimes. Because there's really nothing, being a person of this world, like there's a great, you love this quote by Eric Hoffer. He said, the learners inherit the earth while the learned prepare for a world that doesn't exist. Have you heard this one? It's so brilliant. It's like we become the learner. We become the learner of this human experience, and be like everything's experiential, right? Instead of, because our brain will compartmentalize and analyze and pick apart. That's what a brain does. But when we see what the brain is up to, and as you mentioned, the personal part, when we take it personally, that means that we actually innocently are believing the nonsense between our ears when it's spewing out nonsense. And that's not for us to listen to. That's just our diagnostic system telling us, you know what, you're a little sped up right now. That's okay. But it's not something that you need to be listening to. It's just like a computer freezing up or glitching. Like we don't know why.
Snow globe. I always think of the snow globe.
Right.
Just stop shaking it. When the snow's all over the place,
right.
Stop shaking it.
Right, exactly. It's like, and I heard this great metaphor. Like pilots are trained when a plane is going in a dive. You don't want to hold on to the controls because that resistance and try to pull the plane out of the dive, you'll crash and burn. But if you let go of the controls for a little bit, the plane will level out. And that's the thing.
Yeah,
that's
analogy,
the thing.
Right?
Exactly. And I think that's where all the greatest athletes of our generation have kind of do see that. And the greatest relationships too. I mean,
100%.
Yeah, and a sense of humor. I mean,
listen, hey, I'm glad you said that. I think, I got married this year, and
congratulations.
Thank you, and I would describe our relationship as now conscious. It hasn't always been that way, right? And it took a bit of, it's like when you have a jet to get out of orbit, right? You need a lot of fuel to get out of the Earth's atmosphere. But once you're out, you fly. And that has been our experience. And I think it's the same thing of getting out of your own way, not believing the story.
And that's why this understanding for me too has saved my relationship.
Yeah.
Saved in my life. I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I didn't start to see like how this actually works, that because I was holding onto the controls too tightly. Right.
Hey, that's it, right? That's right? It. And personalizing it, identifying it, all that stuff, right?
Right. And like you look at professional surfers, if they try, if they will drown, you will drown if you're fighting the current or fighting the waves. If you let go and just go with the flow of the current and duck dive when you need to and breathe, right? It's important. Then you're golden. You still may crash. You still may get.
Yeah, you're still going to wipe out, right? That's
you're still going to wipe out, right?
But I mean, we talked about Federer a lot, right? And if he put on muscle and tried to hit the ball hard, he'd hit it less hard. The less effort, the better.
The less effort, the better. And then our brain's like, what do you mean by less effort, the better? Do you think he got that far with less effort? Come on, that's Roger Federer. I mean, that's the noise. And we're like, oh shit, here we go again. Right? Well, this is, we could talk for seriously, literally hours. And I'm just so grateful to have met you. And hopefully one day, we need to meet in the flesh.
100%.
Sure.
100%. That'd be lovely. Yeah. Yes. I mean, my wife and our little girl they went, as I told you before we got on air, they woke me up at 3 this morning because they had to get a flight at silly o'clock. My wife loves travel, and so she's abroad for the first time since all this COVID stuff and the lockdowns happened, and she's loving it. But yeah, when things open up again properly, if they ever do, but let's work on the principle they will. Then 100, mate, it'd be lovely to get together.
Yeah.
But even if we don't, hey, we're brothers, right?
We're brothers, and brothers, and we're gonna have part 2 of this because
for sure.
Especially we won't mention something that's wonderful that's going to be that you've birthed into the world,
in the process of birthing. I'm in the operating theater.
And because I know what that's like, because I've been birthing the same kind of thing, and that should have come out months ago, but it's coming out when it's supposed to come out. It's kind of like you've heard
sometimes takes longer than you would hope. Yeah.
Right. You heard that? Did you hear the story? I don't know if you've heard it or not. There was George Pransky was one of the elders in the understanding. He had a client that had terrible writer's block, and he was stuck in the same chapter for 7 years. Have you heard this one?
Wow. No, I haven't.
Okay, we'll end it at this end. So he and he's like, George, what the hell do I do? Like literally, I'm gonna have a heart attack because I can't budge. He's like, you know what? Well, maybe you're just a terrible, estimator of how long it's going to take to finish this book. And that's true. Like we don't have control. Like when it happens, it happens. I mean, we still have bills to pay. We still got to, do the necessary stuff, but it's supposed to happen when it's supposed to happen. So
that's it. That's it. Yeah. What will be, will be.
What will be, will be. Any parting words for
my
your
parting
fans?
words? All is well, and also, get one with life. Get in the flow of life. Don't resist life, and don't think you know better than life, because that's just noise. Yeah,
that's just noise, and the more we see that, the more we get under it.
Yeah, the more you get in sync with it, the more it shows itself that you can let it go of the controls and go and sit in the back seat and just watch. And
look for that, look for that feel good feeling. I mean, you don't even have to look for it, but it's all there.
That's so true. I think I think that's a really good maybe point to finish on is, I talk about intuition a lot, and that for me, people often ask, how I know, and I don't know, and I'm not saying it's always right, but for me, if I get a sense of peace, a feeling of peace around a decision, that is the decision I need to take, and it just proves itself right to me again and again and again and again. And so that's what I look for now. And you can come up with a long list of pros and cons, but no, that feeling, because ultimately you're still just plucking an answer. Even with that list, You're still plucking an answer. We reverse engineer and think that the list has come up with the answer. No, the answer just popped out.
The list is rubbish. It's just noise.
It's that feeling. For me, it's that feeling of peace. Do I feel at peace with this decision? If I do, then I go for it. And it just repeatedly, in my experience, shows itself to be true, or shows itself to be the best strategy for me. So I would advocate that, certainly.
And we're going to end on that brilliance. And I'm so tickled that you took the time to speak to me, and
Pleasure, Sam.
We're going to do part 2 for sure.
100%.
Wonderful.
I'll be well up for it, brother.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you, Simon.
Pleasure.
And how could people just give yourself
sure. So life lessons from sport and beyond, Simon Mundie, Mundie, Apple, Spotify, all the big platforms. My website, simonmundie.com. Book will be out next year. I think those are the main things. At Simon Mundie on Instagram, Twitter. I'm trying to build up my Instagram at the moment.
TikTok,
I neglected
TikTok
social
yet?
media. Not TikTok.
Yeah,
no.
I
did
a couple.
Social media whiz. Put it that way.
That's
crazy stuff, right?
It's
crazy, man.
Beyond crazy. No,
I mean, it's like anything. It's got its pluses and its minuses, but
yeah. And then there's just. Do
I actually think here's a. I mean, I know we've said it about 6 times now. Right? Here's a final thought: is that to me, social media is like a digital version of our minds. And it's just a stream of bleh, and
it's a ticker tape of bleh.
And some of it can be occasionally useful, but use it rather than it using you, or don't get lost in it.
That's right. If it stops being a tool, then it's time to take a break.
Well, and the same is true of our minds, right? Our mind is a tool, not who we are, and it shouldn't be running the show.
Right. And if you become a tool because you're using your brain the wrong way. We can do this forever. But you get it. Thank you, Simon.
Cheers, Sam.
Big hugs, man. Cheers.
And to you. Cheers, brother.